Okay, so if we're going to be talking about music and writing songs, it's important to go through a little bit of basic music theory. Now, music theory is like the foundational elements of music. It's the structure that holds it all together, um, kind of the rules of music. And of course, all rules are meant to be broken, and there's certainly rules that are broken um, in what I'm about to show you in this video. But basically, it's a foundation and the structure by which music stands on. So we're going to talk about major scales and minor scales. So there's going to be 7 notes in a given key. Um, the easiest key to talk about is the key of C major. It's basically all the white notes starting from C to the next C. This is going to be the easiest way to demonstrate this. So all the notes in a major scale starting at C are going to be all the white keys. So let's go ahead and put those in. All right, so there they are. We could play them. All right, so what this scale is made up of is steps. Now, every note that touches on the keyboard is considered a half step. So it doesn't matter if it's white to black, white to white. Touching notes are going to be half steps. So from D to D sharp, that's a half step. From E to F is a half step because they're touching. Now, if we go from D to E, that's a whole step. 2 half steps equal a whole step. So in the C major scale, or in any major scale, we're going to have this pattern. Whole step, half. Then from there, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. All right? So that's going to be, you might want to write that down. That's going to be the basic structure for a major scale. It's going to be whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And that's what's going to give you this. And it's going to stay the same for, oops. It's going to be the same for any key you put in it. If we move it up to C sharp major, it's going to be the same. If we move it down, starting on B, it's going to have the same quality, kind of a happy quality to it, and it's because of the amount of steps in between each step in and of itself. Now that's a major scale. Now a minor scale is going to be slightly different. Minor scale is going to look something like this. Now we're starting on C, and we're ending on C, just like before. Except this time, the steps are going to be a little bit different. We go whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, and it's going to sound like this. Sounds a little bit more dramatic. Some might say it sounds sad. I like dramatic better. So it sounds a little bit more dramatic, and basically that's going to be the structure of the notes in relation to each other. And like I said before, it's going to be the same whether it starts on C, start on C sharp, it's going to be the same. All right, now let's put this back to the major scale. Now an easy way to make it from major to minor is to simply have your major scale set up, and move the third note down a half step, move the sixth note down a half step, and the seventh note down a half step. Now we have a minor scale. So this is how we create a major scale and a minor scale, and how they sound a little bit differently from each other. Even though we're starting on one note, we're starting on C, ending on C, or whether we start on A sharp and end on A sharp, it doesn't matter. The start and the end note are going to be the same. The notes in between are going to change based on major or minor, and they're going to change the quality of the scale. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, so we talked about scales. We talked about major and minor scales. What made a scale major based on the distance between the notes. If you remember, a major scale sounds happy. Minor scales sound a little bit more serious. And we're going to kind of dive a little deeper into the quality of notes and the intervals that make up scales. So an interval is basically the difference between two pitches or two notes. So if we have a note here and another note here, that's an interval. And we're going to talk about all the intervals and some easy ways to remember what they sound like and what to call them. But we're going to start very basic. Remember, every note that's touching is a half step. Skip a note, it's going to be a whole step. So this is a half step. And this is a half step from here to here. But this is a whole step from C to D. So we're in C right now, C major scale. And we're going to talk about the intervals. So basically there's going to be 7 notes that make up the scale, and the last one being the 8th, but you're basically starting back at 1, which is the C. So if this is 1, C, then D must be 2. E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, and so on and so forth. Now, from C to D, that's called a second, a major second, because we're, based on the scale here, we're going a major second, which is a whole step. A minor second would be to take that down in half. So this will be a major second, C to D, and this will be a minor second, C to D flat. Right here it's called C sharp, but when we're in the key of C, for the purposes of calling that a minor second, it's D flat. Minor second, major second. And the same goes for the third. So if we go from C to E with no sharps or flats, that's going to be a major third. All right, that's a major third. We're going C, 1, 2, and 3. Now if we want to make it a minor third, what do? We just take it a half step down from the major third to there. So it would be C to E flat. Now, by the way, the reason I don't call it D sharp like it is here is because D is the second. And so for us to say C to D sharp, we're still in some sort of a second. But if we want to be calling it some sort of a third, it has to be E something. So it will be E flat. C to F, the fourth. And C to G is a fifth. Now, you might want to write this down. Fourths and fifths are called perfect fourth and perfect fifth. There's no major or minor fourth or fifth. Now, what you get in between the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth is right here. It's called a tritone. Okay? So, in between a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth is going to be a tritone, which will sound like this. Kind of unpleasant to the ear. You don't hear that a lot in music, But of course, there's an application for everything. We'll talk about that in a minute. Major sixth, C to A. To make it a minor sixth, you take it down a half step. C to A flat. Major seventh, C to B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. C to B. Minor seventh. And then when you go from C all the way up to the C again, it's called an octave. All right? Now, how do you remember what an interval sounds like? If you're not looking at the keyboard and you hear this, how do you know that that's a minor second if you're not looking at the keyboard? Well, for a lot of these notes, a lot of the more common ones at least, there are songs that use these intervals that if you can recall that in your brain, you can automatically determine what the interval is. So a very popular theme for a minor second would be the movie Jaws. Okay, I don't know if that sounds familiar. So when you hear this, when you hear the Jaws theme, it's a minor second. So for a major second, Happy Birthday uses a major second. Right, so here's the major second. All right. For a minor third, there's not a lot of really well-known that I can think of. I guess Frosty the Snowman starts with that, but a major third is probably something you're going to be able to recognize. All right? So a major third would be Beethoven's Fifth, if you know that song. All right? A perfect fourth, Here Comes the Bride. All right? A perfect fifth, well, let's talk about a tritone, which will be this. You'll hear that in a show you might have heard of called The Simpsons. That's the opening notes to the Simpsons theme song. The Simpsons, right there. A perfect fifth, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Little Star, obviously, I don't want to sing it, but for a minor sixth, I haven't really been able to find anything really popular that I can draw upon. I just kind of remember that it's one half step up from a perfect fifth. It's just one half step up. So I've kind of committed that to memory. A major sixth. Major sixth is like My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. Or something like that. My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. Minor seventh. The old like Star Trek theme, if you know that one. Major seventh, that's like the Superman theme song. It does that. And an octave, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Right? So those are the intervals. Hopefully those songs helped you remember and kind of be able to distinguish and recognize intervals when you hear them. It takes time to be able to just know what it is right offhand. It takes a little bit of time, but at least now you have a basic understanding of what intervals are, some tricks to be able to hear what they are, and that's intervals. Okay, so we talked about intervals and we talked about major and minor scales. So now let's talk about chords. Now you may have heard the word chord. It's basically three notes playing at the same time. So any three notes really. Of course, when you're in a certain key, you're going to use the notes of the scale to combine notes to make chords that sound pleasant, that sound familiar, and what they use in pop music and everything. But technically, it's any three notes playing at the same time. Okay, so um, as you know, um, two notes are intervals. So if you have the distance between any two notes is an interval. And so if we take three notes, we're going to use intervals of thirds to create chords. Now let me show you what I mean by that. Get rid of these. So let's say we start here on C, and we say C, go a major third up, E, and then from there a minor third, which is going to be G. Right now we have the notes C, E, and G. We have three notes, so technically this is a chord, and we're going to call this a C major chord, and I'll explain why that is. But let's listen to it first. Kind of short, but you get the point. Now, if you had notes like this, then we're not into a chord, we're into an arpeggio. Okay? So they got to be playing at the same time. And like I said, it could be any three notes. So we could have these three notes, and that's a chord. Okay? Now, when we're talking about chords, there are four types of chords that we can name: major chords, minor chords, diminished chords, and augmented chords. Okay, so let's just basically go over them. So our chords are going to be measured in intervals of thirds. Now the first third is going to tell you if it's major or minor. So we start on C. If we go a major third up to E, that's going to be a major chord, because from there it's going to be a minor third. So for a major chord, we're going to have a major third, then a minor third, stacked on top of each other. Okay, so we're going to have C to E, C to E, that's a major third, and then from there, E to G, a minor third. And that's going to make a major chord. We call that C major, because we're starting on C. Okay? Now, if we took that, starting on C, and we go minor third, major third, that's going to be a C minor chord. So let's say C to E flat will be a minor third. E flat to G, a major third. So we're starting from the bottom, going up a minor third, and then from there up a major third. And that's going to be a C minor chord. It's going to sound more serious. So major chords, start from the bottom, go a major third, then a minor third. Minor chords starting from the bottom, go minor third, major third. Now when we get to special chords, like diminished chords, a diminished chord is made up of two minor thirds. So we have C to E flat, which is a minor third, and E flat to G flat, which is a minor third. Let's pull that out. Okay. Easy way to tell diminished chords is it sounds like those old black and white movies with the lady tied up on the train tracks and the train's coming. That's what that sounds like. So that's called a diminished chord, made up of two minor thirds. Now an augmented chord is the opposite. It's made up of two major thirds. So we're going to go C to E, a major third, and then from E to G sharp, which is a major third. Major third, and then major third. And that's going to sound like this. An easy way to tell an augmented chord is it kind of sounds spacey. like Lost in Space. All right. So those are the four basic. So those are the four basic chord types. We have major, which is a major third on top of major third, then a minor third. We have a minor chord, which is a minor third, then a major third. Okay. We have a diminished chord, which is a minor third, then a minor third. Lady on the Train tracks. And we have an augmented chord, which is a major third to a major third. More spacey. Okay, so those are the basic chords. We'll talk in the next video how to create a chord progression and get you started with making a song. Okay, so we talked about chords. We talked about major chord, minor, diminished, and augmented chords. Now we're going to talk about chord progressions. Now, basically what a chord progression is a series of chords set in order to establish a foundation for our melody. Now, basic chord progressions, they revolve around a certain key, and we'll talk about that right now. So first thing we need to establish is what key we're in and what the tonic note is. So if we're in the key of C major, and we go up, C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's the scale, that's the C major scale, okay? Now the tonic is going to be the 1, which is C. C is 1, 1 is tonic. Remember we have the first, the second, the third, which our chords are made up of thirds, and so on and so forth. Perfect fourth, perfect fifth. So the tonic note is going to be C because we start on C and we end on C. All right? So the first chord we're going to call the 1 chord, or the tonic is going to be C. Let's spell that out as C, C major, C, E, G. Okay? And that sounds like this. That's going to be our 1. We call it 1 because we started on the tonic, which is 1. C major, that's 1. A common chord progression that you'll hear in pop music all the way back to the Beatles is 1, 4, 5, and back to 1. So if you remember our intervals, so now this is 1. We want to get to 4, which would be perfect fourth. That's going to be F. Okay? So if we start a chord starting on F, and it's going to be a major chord, that one will be F, count a third up from F, A, and a major third, and then a minor third from A would be C, A to C. Okay, so that's our 4 chord because it starts on the 4th tone of the scale. Okay? All right. Let's bring these guys back a little bit. All right, so we're halfway through our progression. We got our 1 chord, we have our 4 chord. Now we need our 5 chord. Now C, which is the 1 to 5, is a perfect fifth. It's going to be major, so it's going to be a major chord. So the 5th note of the scale of C is going to be G. So let's start on G. It's going to be a major chord, so we're going to go up a major third, G to B. And then from there, we're going to go a minor third up because this is another major chord. So that's going to be D. Okay, so we have our 1 chord, our 4 chord, our 5 chord, and then we resolve, which is called resolving when you land back at home, or 1 or the tonic, which will be C. That's called resolving. So our 5 to 1 is called a cadence, and we're resolving back to C. C major chord, which is C, E, G. So let's listen to this chord progression, 1, 4, 5, 1, and see if you recognize it from any songs. So that's a basic chord progression, a very popular chord progression, starting on the 1 to 4 to 5, back to 1, all major chords. Okay. Now another popular progression is if you wanted to go 1, 4, 6, 5, 1, just to keep it interesting. So let's move this 5th chord over, okay? And here we're going to put a minor 6. So let's count up an interval of 6 from C. C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be A. So we're going to go A minor chord. Okay, so we're going to start on A, go a minor third up since we're doing a minor, A to C, and then from there a major third to E. So now we have 1, 4, 6, 5, and back to 1. So basically C major to F major to A minor to G major back to C major. Okay, so let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, very popular progression as well. You probably recognize it. And that's basically, we're starting on the tonic, which is C, C major. We're going to the 4 chord, the minor 6 chord, the 5 chord, and back to the 1, which is C, because we're in C major. All right, and so next video we'll talk about inversions. As you can see, some of these notes double, like these guys right here. So we'll talk about some inversions. When you're playing on the piano, instead of putting your fingers in these places, you can leave some of your fingers and just move one note around and get the same chord, but it's just going to be written out a different way. But those are called inversions, and we'll talk about those in the next video. So you remember in our last video, we took this chord progression starting on C. We're in the key of C major, calling this the 1. We did a chord progression of 1, 4, 6, 5, 1, which is C major, F major, A minor, G major, and then back to C major. Okay, so right now these chords are in what's called root position. This basically means the C chord has a C in the bottom. The F chord has an F in the bottom. Whatever the chord is named as, that note is going to be on the bottom, or the root of it. Now, we don't have to spell chords this way. As long as the chord has 3 notes in it, we could still call it. So if we have this F major, F-A-C, we don't have to spell it F-A-C. we could make this C any C we want. We could put it up here, F, A, and then this C is way far away, but A to C is still going to be a third. It's just we're moving it up an octave. You could do that. Or in a chord progression like this, we might leave it down here. Now we're still playing F, A, and C, so it's an F major chord. We're just putting the C in the bottom, okay? And this is called an inversion. Now, first inversion would be the third in the bottom, and second inversion would be the fifth in the bottom, but don't really worry about that right now. All I'm saying is that as long as the notes are spelled out, we can leave them. So we have a C here. We don't have to move this C up here. We could leave it down here and just move these notes. Okay? Now right here, we have an A that doubles, and we have A, C, E. Now, we already have a C down here, so we can even move this C down here to keep it real simple for us. And we can move this E down here close to the F we just played. So now we're playing A, C, E. This will be an A minor chord in first inversion. But we don't have to move the notes all over the place. We can kind of keep them real tightly and compacted in here. Okay? We're still playing A, C, E. And now we get to the 5. We have G, B, D. Now, these are all new notes. We don't have an A, a C, an E, or an F in this chord. So we could either leave it up here, or we can move the notes around to keep them close. So we could take this D that's way up at the top and put it down here. Oops. Okay? And see what that sounds like. Okay, so inversions are basically rearranging the notes of the chord, but still keeping the same notes. We're just moving the top note to the bottom just to keep it simple for ourselves. It also adds a different color because obviously this, let's start here. That sounds different than, oops, than that. This is a little richer with this D on the bottom. And it's preference, obviously, but if you want to keep the notes from jumping around too much, you can keep them close. Repeat the ones that are there. As long as you're spelling the chord out, the 3 notes that are in the chord are there. You can arrange the notes any way you want. So that's a basic understanding of inversions. So you can have a chord in root position, which is the root note on the bottom. You can have it in first position, which is the third note on the bottom. You can have it in second inversion, which is the last note or the 5th note on the bottom.